Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Perspectives in Rural Education podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Homeyer. And today we're joined with Todd Vilardo.
Bilardo, you got it.
Vilardo. I was I was afraid I was going to mess it up. And he is the superintendent at the for the Charleston School District. And I'll have him introduce himself.
Hi, Ethan. Thanks for
Hi.
having me today. Happy to help out. And as you correctly pronounce, it's Todd Vilardo. And I'm the superintendent of schools for Charleston CUSU number one. And this is my sixth year, and I have one remaining before retirement. And I'm not sure what comes after my tenure here, but I'm looking forward to this year and next year and all the exciting things happening in our school community.
That's really exciting. You said you're going to be retiring soon?
Yes, I have 1 year remaining on my contract after this one.
Well, that sounds exciting, though.
Yeah, I'm going to miss the service and the work in the schools and our school district. But it's time. It's just time for somebody else to move into this role and hopefully carry forward the great things that we're doing for kids.
And, well, thank you for doing all that you've been doing. So, uh, I wanted to start off by asking you, um, what exactly is it that you do as a superintendent, like for Charleston? I'm curious about what all your duties and responsibilities are.
Sure. In general, a superintendent of schools is responsible for the overall operations of a school district and is accountable for implementing the Board of Education's policies. Also accountable for supervising and evaluating the administrative team. A superintendent makes recommendations to the Board of Education on behalf of the administrative team or the committees that we have, the many committees that we have in our school district. And all that is to ensure that the district's staff as a whole and individually provide the best educational services feasible and carries out the mission and the vision and the values and the goals of the school district. So that's the general view, but more specifically, there are a lot of logistics involved in keeping multiple plates spinning
Hmm.
around the district, from responding to inquiries to supporting the board's work to providing the overall leadership for the school district.
It seems like it's a lot of responsibility.
It can be overwhelming, but it is a very rewarding role. I have enjoyed every position that I've had in our school district, from teaching to coaching to serving in various administrative roles. They have all been very rewarding, and I have no regrets about my career, especially in a rural setting.
So, yeah, you had several other roles prior to superintendent, and was that all in Charleston, or were you kind of at other places as well?
Mostly in Charleston. I moved here in 1986 from a small town in northwestern Illinois called Knoxville. Many
Hmm.
people, when I say that, they say, "Oh, Tennessee." No, there's a Knoxville, Illinois. It's up in Knox County near Galesburg
Hmm.
and Peoria area. And I moved here to attend EIU. And I student taught at Oakland High School. I student taught English. And there was a position that came open at Charleston High School. I knew that it was a 1 year position only because the teacher who held the position before me was on a 1 year leave of absence, and that teacher decided not to return. And so I
Oh,
stuck around, fortunately, and I began teaching and coaching at Charleston High School. I coached cross country and track and field. I did that for 8 years, and then there was a created position at the high school of an assistant principal, and so
oh,
I was fortunate to accept that role. at Charleston High School. I did that for 7 years and a couple years as athletic director and summer school director. And then there was an opportunity that came open at Mattoon Middle School as principal. And I served at Mattoon Middle School and had an incredible experience there as well. And we worked hard, had a lot of fun, got a lot done. And then a position came open back in Charleston School District as assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. And so I applied and was very blessed and fortunate to be offered the position. And so I did that role for 9 years. And then this role became available, and I followed a great superintendent in Jim Littleford. Our district has had solid superintendents through the years, and I just have always hoped to be able to follow in their footsteps and provide quality services for our entire district. So here I am, and this is, like I said, year 6 of 7, and it's been a great a great experience in our Coles County schools.
Wow, it seems like you've run the whole gambit, which that's exciting.
It's
Uh,
been
what was that?
it's been fun. I've really enjoyed it. My father, when he asked me when I was in high school what I want to do, I said I want to be a teacher. I want to get an education. And he said, "Well, you can't make any money doing that." And I said, well, at the time I wasn't interested in making a lot of money.
Hmm.
I just wanted to try to give back like my teachers and educators, provided for me as a young kid growing up in a small town. So I just wanted to give back and try to make some small difference in others' lives and in a school community. And I don't know if I've done that, but I hope to continue to strive to do that.
I think that's an amazing goal and mission to have. So, what have you enjoyed the most about your journey through the rural education system?
Oh boy.
That's a hard question.
It is. It's truly been an incredible journey for me personally, learning about the complexities of every job that I've ever had, from teaching, which is it's teaching is very, very challenging. By and large, the general public is unaware of all of the paperwork, the recording, the meetings, the extra expectations placed on teachers because of mandates and
Hmm.
etc. They're largely unaware of all of those, and so most people think, oh, the child comes into the classroom and you teach them, and they go on, they go home, and there's also a lot of planning and grading, and if you're coaching, that's added duties as well. So it can be very challenging and very complex, but it was good to learn that role as a teacher and as a coach years ago. In the assistant principal role and the principal role and the assistant super, they're all a little bit different roles, but they're all still nonetheless complex roles. And the superintendent role is very similar. So I've approached all of those different roles as a challenge to learn as much as I can about the different intricacies and complexities, and try to leave each of those schools and each of those in a better place than I found them. For example, my role as assistant principal at the high school, I did create some practices at Charleston High School that are still in existence today, and that kind of makes me happy that they're still using some of the same practices that I started there. It gives me a sense of joy. So I'm seeing the positive impact of our work to pass the 1% sales tax. That's another example. And I'm proud of our team's work to continually improve the district and make a positive difference in kids' lives. That is my journey as a up to becoming a superintendent and where I am today.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. And I will say, like, all the roles you mentioned, like in every role in the education, it's all important and vital to make an effective education system. And you guys all have to work together. And I think that's amazing and incredible.
Yeah, and Ethan, people oftentimes in every job they have frustrations. And I was always told years ago that if you don't, if you have a job without frustrations, you don't have a job. Every job it has its challenges and tough times. But in education, there are there are rewards in education that you just cannot get in another field. When children, they say the light bulb goes off, or when children understand what you're trying to teach them and they apply it in life or in a lesson or with each other, that is an incredibly magical experience that it's not monetary. It's, you don't see it in your paycheck, but it's something that you will never forget, and it carries with you for the rest of your life, and it motivates you to continue to serve as an educator.
It's really rewarding. Thank you so much for sharing all that. It's really, really well put. What have been some of the challenges as being a superintendent?
Yeah, so um, most of the challenges arise from, and I don't mean to be disparaging to people, but this comes with a territory of when you don't work in the legal field, for example, you think that the legal system is unjust or attorneys don't know what they're doing. When you don't work in the medical field, you don't quite understand it unless you walk in their shoes. It's just like anything in life. um, Most of the challenges arise from people who think that schools should operate how they think schools should operate rather than how they actually operate. So there's little local control around schools anymore, but sometimes people think that their child's teacher should do X, for example, when the law requires Y. So we continually have to provide information and explanations for why we do what we do. And that can be challenging, and it can be a source of frustration for some. Um, I sometimes call it the Burger King mindset that started back in the 1970s when Burger King franchise began to market and advertise that customers could have it your way.
Mhm.
And so over time, that filtered into other businesses and other organizations and institutions, to the point where today many parents think that they should be able to have it their way in the schools as well, despite what the law says or what the board's policies or our practices are. So that can be a source of frustration or a challenge. So in the end, we're responsive to kids' needs and public education, despite laws to the sometimes to the contrary, that you can't just have it your way all the time. So that's why I strive to get educators and parents on the same page with regard to just about any topic. And we saw that during the pandemic. We saw this divisiveness in our country that came down to the local school boards, for example. And so my goal, not only through the pandemic, but just in general, is to try to get parents and educators on the same page. Because if parents and educators aren't sending the same message to children, it's confusing to children.
Mhm.
If children are confused, it's not a safe feeling. And when children aren't safe at school, they don't feel safe. There's little learning that's going to occur. It goes back to that old adage, when the pupil is ready, the master will appear. And if children aren't safe, they're not ready to learn. So we have to make them, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So
Mhm.
you can feel safe. And so part of that in my role is to try to strive to ensure that parents and educators are sending those same messages, consistent messaging to kids.
Well, I like how you mentioned the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Creating a safe environment, I would, would be very important for any growth wanting to work towards. I believe is self actualization. Is that correct?
Self-actualization is my recollection from my EIU days in psychology classes, which is the highest need. But we need to provide for kids' safety and well-being at school. And sometimes that means feeding children. And this year, many schools, in rural communities, and even in Charleston, we're providing free meals for kids. We have anti-bullying programs, and we have character education programs. We have Leader in Me, which is teaching children that everybody can be a leader, even if at the very least you can lead your own path in life. So yeah, it's all good stuff.
I think it's awesome. I also wanted to ask, I wanted to ask you what are some things that make Charleston School District unique?
Well, when I was a youngster going to EIU as an undergraduate, I was studying English and psychology, and consistently my EIU professors would, they would develop relationships with their students. And that's one thing, by the way, that I found that I really liked about Charleston and EIU, the extended community, was they cared about their students. But getting back to the question, they would ask me where I would want to teach, and I would say, well, I'd love to teach in Charleston, because they always said that Charleston was a great place to raise a family. And I grew to find that to be true, not only as an undergraduate, but also as a Charleston resident through all these years since 1986. Here's the thing in Charleston: it is a friendly community. It is a small town that has a university. It is diverse, which is a strength if we allow it to be. But the littlest things matter. And the little things that I see that matters may seem silly to some, but when I wave, people wave back. Whether you're on the sidewalk, walking or running, or you're in a vehicle, people wave and they're friendly. And it's not as if, some people like it when you can go to a larger community and you can hide. I personally, I'm not interested in hiding. I want to serve others, and I want to try to make a difference in their lives. And to me, part of that is developing relationships and trusting relationships through just getting to know people and treating them the way you want to be treated. And so when I wave at somebody, I hope that they'll wave back. And that's what we do here in Charleston. And so it's little things like that that make a big difference. And so that's one of the many and other reasons why I like this area. I like Charleston.
It's a very welcoming environment.
Yes, inviting. Yes.
It is very inviting. That's one of the reasons why I love Charleston too. I'm thinking about staying a while, but we'll see what happens.
Ethan, when I gotta tell you, I was originally accepted to another state university, and I made a visit to EIU. I walked around campus, and it just felt like home because it was so inviting, and folks, introduced themselves, and it just felt like home. And so I switched. I became a Panther. I
Yeah,
have no regrets. I love it.
man, I love my time here at EAU. I was here as an undergrad, and I'm a grad student, and I also had a couple other options. I came to Eastern, and it was just like I like this. Everyone's been really welcoming. I didn't feel like a number. Like in other bigger universities, I felt like I was just another person rather than like myself, like an important individual in the community. And that was the selling point for me.
That's right. That's right. That's so valuable. That's so valuable. And you make a great point, and that's again, that's hits at home, hits the nail on the head for what makes Charleston and the EIU community together makes it a great community in which to live.
I agree. Um, well, a few more questions. Why would you say rural education is so important, or like good, effective rural education is so important?
Well, it goes back to the common themes and threads that have run through what we've talked about so far. There are many things that you can do in a smaller rural community as opposed to an urban or metropolitan city. Sometimes you can get lost in an urban setting. Sure, there are organizations in which you can serve. Not disparaging an urban setting, but I have friends that grew up in a small town. and they now live a more of an urban or suburban city or area, and they are wanting to escape from that now and get back to the small town. And by and large, it's because of the hubbub, the busyness that takes so long to travel, where you don't have that here. This area and other rural settings, they are largely great places to raise a family, not just Charleston. Like I said, I had an excellent time in Mattoon in my service there. Their families and educators love and care for their children just like they do in Charleston, just like they do in any educational setting in this area. And so it's just about serving and getting to know people and trying to make a difference and working together interdependently, um, interdependently across, whether it be your neighbor or a service organization or a church or a large institution like EIU.
Well, it's all really, really important. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Is there anything else? That's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you might want to share about yourself, the Charleston School District, or education in general?
I do want to just say that I personally, I say that I've again have no regrets about serving in education, and part of that is because of the support that I've had, and that goes to the administrative support that I've had through the years, and the board of education support that I've had through the years in any of our districts that I've in which I've worked, whether it be Oakland School District, Mattoon, or Charleston. The support has been incredible, and people need that now more than ever. I have seen how that support and that confidence in me has impacted my life and my ability to serve. So I would share that now more than ever, it's time to show kindness and exemplify the golden rule and lift people up and support one another, um, more so now than ever, perhaps. And so I would just say, Ethan, thanks to you for your service and for making a positive difference. I know that this video is part of that work. It is service oriented. You're trying to serve and communicate to people about these topics and issues in rural education. So thanks for your work, and go Panthers.
Yeah, go Panthers! And thank you for all your service and everything you've been doing for our community. It's really really amazing to hear. And thank you for sharing with us.
My pleasure.